Okay, we're going to do a chord analysis of Bach's Chorale in F major, BWV 1.6. This is for second term theory class, and so some of the things we'll do here are cursory. For instance, in order to do chord analysis with figured bass, we're going to have to be able to separate what's a chord tone and what's not a chord tone, and we'll mark those and talk a little bit about how to identify that. But since the class hasn't learned what to call figured bass by definition yet, we're simply just going to mark that that's a non-chord tone, and later we'll return to the piece when we have done definitions and then name these things. But for right now we haven't. Similarly, when we get to a cadence or stopping point, we're going to note whether it's a 1 chord or a 5 chord that it ends on, but we're not going to get into what kind of authentic cadence it is, or that the 5 chords are half cadences. I mean, I'll mention it, but it's not part of the assignment. So this is beginning of the term. Let's get our analysis skills and reading skills kind of dusted off. And so we'll go fast. I have a keyboard over here, just in case we want to hear a certain sound, explain why something's a non-chord tone or why it functions a certain way. That being said, you should just find a recording of this or play it yourself and become familiar with the sounds. I'm not going to go through all of it, okay? But key signature, 1 flat, F major. We got an F chord here. We have an F chord at the end. It's not in D minor. There are B naturals here and here, but in general, it doesn't look like it's changed key anywhere. And we know this because, as I write this in here, that's a F chord, which is a 1 chord right there. There's an F chord at this cadence right here. There's a C chord, which is my 5 chord right there. And you can see that the ends and the beginnings of phrases seem to be framing up 1 and 5 chords in the key of F. Here's another one right here, F, A, C, F. It's F, A, C. It's going to be another 1 chord. So this is clearly in the key of F, okay? And I'm just going to go through this and point things out. You should have done this. We did some of it in class in the first iteration of this, and you're supposed to complete the second half on your own, and then you're supposed to watch this video and confirm that you did it right, get some more feedback on how to do this kind of analysis, and pick up anything else so that your questions in class can be thoughtful rather than only just review. Okay, so now that I've got this phrase figured out, starts on 1, ends on 1 F chord, F, A, C, F, 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 A, C. We can look at the other things in here, and see this has got an E right there, which is 7th degree of the scale, or T in solfege, do T. I suspect it's a 5 chord, which I'm going to pre-think is C, E, G, C, C, E, G. There we go, that's 5 right there. Because the root of the chord is not in the bass, we need a figured bass symbol. 6 is the shorthand for third in the bass. So longhand is 6-3. 6th above E would give us our root, which is a C. And 3, which is invisible here because we're shorthand, gives us the 5th, which is G right there. This is the same right there, just the root. Sorry, the root is not in the highest note. The doubling's different, but it's still an F, A, and a C. This is a D, F, D, and A. It's a D minor chord, which is 6 in the scale, right? F, G, A, B flat, C, D, and it's minor, and it's in root position. And this is not a 3 chord. If you look, it's F, A, and C, so it's still a 1 chord, but it's in first inversion. Generally, you're going to find that your bass notes are almost always roots or thirds, and you're going to find a lot of 1s and 5s, some 4s. And then 6s and 2s can happen, 7s can happen, 3s are pretty rare in the major key, okay? I come to this chord right here. It's got a B flat, a D, a B flat, an F, and a C. And if you're not thinking in the key, then this could be confusing because it doesn't make a chord that you know of unless you're looking like at a C9 sus, something or other like that. That doesn't make any sense. It's a 4 chord, it's a B flat chord. I'm going to play this for you. One of these 2 notes is going to be the non-chord tone. It's this one here. I know this because, first off, 4 chords are common, and that would make sense for a B flat chord to be here. But also, see the B flat is in 2 places there. They're gonna help each other, right? They're not gonna sound, this kind of reinforces that that's the one that's consonant or makes with the chord. So it's, right? And if it was the C, it would sound like this. And you can hear that that C is giving a lot of dissonance. It's traveling through like that. And then it'll come to here for the next one. So you want to use your ears as much as possible. For right now, I'm just going to circle it so that we know that's a non-chord tone. If you care, it's a passing tone. And I will do a different video at a different time going over what these are all called and why. But for right now, we know this is not chord tone. So B flat, because of the key signature, F, B flat, and D. It's a B flat D F chord, which is 4, right? Uppercase because it's a major chord. And here, this stays the same. This kicks up an octave. This goes from the B flat to the D. It's just doubling the third now instead of the root. It's also a B flat chord. Now, we could put a 4 here again, and that would be fine. But since it's the same chord, I'm just going to note that the inversion has changed right there. And then this E flat, again, is also not a chord tone right there. Again, I'll play this. It doesn't sound bad with the E flat. Here's my chord like this. Up top, tenor, soprano, alto, right in there. And here's with the D in the middle. Now, if it was the E flat, or E, sorry, it would be this. And you can see that it really clashes against the F right there because they're a half step away, the E and the F. And the E and the B flat is also a tritone away. Your ears can tell you which one's right, okay? This is a cadence or stopping point. It's got a 1 chord right there. We would call this an authentic cadence. Later we'll talk about why it's perfect or not perfect, but don't worry about that. Just note that it stops on a 1 chord here. This is identical right there, okay? And then, well, let's have a look here. B flat, F, B flat, D. That's another 4 chord, right? If you're having problems with keeping and speed, ask yourself, are you having problems reading the notes? Is it bass clef? Is it ledger lines? Are you having problems spelling the chord and going, oh, B flat, D, F, right? Or are you having problems going in the B flat scale, B flat, or sorry, in the F scale, B flat is number 4. So it's a 4 chord or a subdominant, and those are major, right? Those are different areas that you can tighten up your work on and work to improve. Will make you faster at this. Here's another case where we've got 2 notes right here, and one of them's probably a non-chord tone, okay? Now, it's this one right here. And you might say, I guessed wrong because these were between the beats beforehand, and this one's on the beat. They can go either way. If it's between the beats, you get a consonant sound with a dissonant sound that runs through to another consonant sound. It's very smooth. Here, if it's on the downbeat with the beat with the rest of the notes, it's going to be more jarring. I'll play that for you. You can hear this. So I've got my E up top and my B flat right there. And then I've got a G in the tenor. And then here's my A. And it's very dissonant. It's not a bad sound, right? But then when it comes down to the G, it's much less problematic. Now, you can do this visually ahead of time because this is a G right here, and that G is going to support and sound good together, right? This A is also going to sound very dissonant against the B flat, these 2 sounds. So it's good to use your ears. And that would make this an EGB, right? EGB, which is 7. So we make a 7, we make it diminished. And this is the note that is the one we'll look for inversion right there. 3rd of the chord, which is that. We'll find out more. We study the diminished triads like to be in first inversion for reasons, okay? Good. Here we have, looks like an F, an F, an A, and a C. That definitely looks like an F chord to me, right? F, F, A, C. A is in the bass, so it's a 1 with an inversion. Now, for purposes of our class, you should just ignore that. Like if you're ever analyzing on your own at this level, you don't need to know what that is. However, I'll explain it now, and then later, hopefully down here, it will make sense too. So at this point, we have the F holding over, we have a D, we have another D, and then we have a B natural. Okay, and if you want to back it up from the previous notes, we had this right here like this, and then it goes to here, right, and then finally over the last P. Oops. Okay, so what this B natural is telling us is that because it seems to be part of a chord leading to here, is that it's a chord that's not in the key, right? In fact, if we spell this out, not worrying about key, it's B, D, F, which is B diminished, right? And we've learned in class last term that the only place we find diminished chords, like 90% of the time, is the 7 chord, right? It could be a 2 in minor, but we're not in minor clearly here. And so regardless of all this other stuff, when you see this B diminished, it's going to sound like a 7 in your ears. And B is the 7 of C, right? And look, we have a C chord coming up right here, C, E, C, E, G, right? So this is 5 right here. And so this is something you learn when you learn chromatic harmony, which is usually a topic of second year, but it's okay to understand right now. We say that this is the B in the key of C, and C is the 5 chord right here, and it's coming right there. So we would call this 7, because it's 7 of C, which is 5, or 7 of 5, right there. It's a temporary little thing that gives extra pull to, I don't know, to the sound. It's there's my 4 chord, here's my 7 chord right here, so it's going to go up to here, non-chord tone, and then it's going to go to my 1 chord, right, which is nice, and then it sneaks up through here, right, pulling us into the C, just like that. It's pretty nice. Okay, also just want to point out that that this is a 4 going to a 7 is a circle of fifths kind of thing. 1 goes down a fifth to 4, 4 goes down a fifth to 7. We have this little jog, and then 7 clicks over into a 5 right there. Okay? All right, going on, we can look F, F, A, and a D. There's an E right here, but this is a DFA chord, right? You throw the E in there, it doesn't make any sense with anything else there. You have to do some real mental gymnastics and call it like an E sus4 flat 9, something or other. It doesn't work. You can play them both and find that it doesn't work as well, but we'll trust ourselves there. So D, F, A, that's another 6 chord in the key of F, but now the 3rd is in the bass, so we put a 6 here. Okay, this is a deceptive type progression, 5 going to 6 instead of 1, right? Now, 6 loves to go to 2, which loves to go to 5, and I'm just gonna presume this is a 2 chord because I see the G there, and a D, and a G, and a D. This is a 2, it's a G chord. Curiously, and I'm gonna point this out here, if you look at all the textbooks, they'll tell you when you part write, you should have a root and a 3rd. This one has no 3rd. It can happen. Bach has good reasons for it, and he didn't feel like it was the right thing to do otherwise. So, but 6 goes down to 5, circle of fifths going down, 2 goes to 5, down by a fifth. 2 loves to go to 5 is what we have. This is what we call a half cadence. It's a stopping point that's progressive. It says we're going to pause here, but we need to go on harmonically. So when you hear this, you're going to hear, I'll just play from the 6th chord right there. So you're going to hear like this. And then we go to the open 2, right? And then here, right? But remember our original key is they're going to like that, okay? All right, we're going to move on. 5 likes to go to 1. Usually there's an F and an F and an A and a C. So 1 chord right there. And you might say, is this a non-chord tone? Non-chord tones often happen between, with these extra fill-in things here, because Bach is sort of thinking chords by beats in a way, building these phrases. But sometimes you'll get an extra note and it's just an arpeggiation or another part of the chord. So there's my F, A, C, that's all. So it's not really a non-chord tone, we're fine, okay? Coming down here, we can go forward like this, but I'm gonna just build backwards for a minute. This is my 1 chord right here. It's the end of the section. I know that it's probably going to be a 5 going into a 1. And if we look here, we have a C and a G and a G, right? Now there's an F there, but it resolves down to an E. This whole thing right here is really just a 5. There's my 7th right there. This is a non-chord tone called a suspension. This is a passing tone. These ones don't count, right? And you might go like, why? Why? Well, we know that these cadences or ending points, 5 likes to go to 1, right? And the most common place you're going to find a 7th on a chord is on the 5 chord. And there it is right there, C, E, G, B flat, right? There's this. This is just simply held over and delayed to come down here. And it gives nice tension to the line when you go like, right? Again, your ears will go like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Ears are always important, right? We want to educate your ears. They help figure out what would otherwise be, is it this or that, confusing to the mind, right? It's just based on like notes because there's lots of possibilities. So I'm going to throw my 7th right there. Now, later when we do non-chord tones, we'll have to mark in numbers to talk about the interval of the suspension, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're not even going to label that. Okay, let's just keep going backwards. F, A, C, A, and there's another F and there's another. This is just a 1 chord right there. So he's going 1, 5, 1. Okay, let's take a look here. It's a D and a D and an A and a B flat. Now that's kind of hard to know which it is. Is it like a B flat chord with an A on it? It'd be a B flat major 7. It's possible, but I don't think so. I think that this melody is going to be part of the chord, right? And there's my F. And then there's my D, right? So far we have those, but it's this. That A is really causing me some problems. So maybe, although that sounds fine, you know, you could say that this is B flat, D, F. Like this could be a 4 chord with a non-chord tone right there. And that's not a bad thing to call it. First inversion. But we also have to consider when this resolves to the G, right? Do we have a different chord here? And I think we do. We have an E, G, G, and a B flat, which is our E, G, B flat 7 chord. I think Bach is squishing those together, right? It's this little passing thing there too. So he's scrunched 2 chords together. It's kind of fun. This ends up being a suspension that resolves into a different chord even, which is kind of fun. Here we have A, C, C, E, A, C, E. It is a 3 chord. That's pretty rare, right? It's in first inversion, okay? And here I have, looks like a B flat, D, F. That means this is going to be a, you know, so it's going to be a 4 chord. Some noodling on Bach's part. So I just want to point out just a couple other things that are odd here. By the way, this would be another authentic cadence, right? Because it's got the 1 chord right there. It's not common to have, in fact, rules would say always have a root and a third. There's no third there. Another rule is that between the soprano and the alto, there can't be anything greater than a perfect octave. And between the alto and the tenor, there can't be anything greater than a perfect octave. And I'd like to point out that Bach did that right here. If you look, that's an octave and a 4th. And we would mark this on a test like greater than perfect octave and take a point off. Bach decided to do that briefly because I think he thought it would be easier for the sing down a third to the F and sing up an octave rather than to jump over the bar line up a 6th to a really, really high note, right? So it's easier to go on the tenor line with the A, G, or A, G, A, down to the F, and then up. Like that, right? So he broke the rule. It wasn't a rule in his time. The rules we have today are summaries of mostly his practice. It's good to see that that's a thing where it's like sometimes the rules are broken. Here's another rule that you'll find in chord progression. 4 generally does not go to 3, and yet it happens there, right? So the voice leading, the linear concerns, the the movement on the weak beat of the measure, you know, it makes a 3 chord. It doesn't have to, but it did, right? Like he could have stayed on the G. That would have been a 4 going to a 5, which would have been okay. But I guess he wanted that there for sound. Okay, so there we go. All right, now I'm gonna go on and do the rest of this. This is the part that in class, at least at this particular junction, you're supposed to do on your own. This is what we did in class, okay? I don't think these are real strong like cadences because they're just an idea and a pause and an idea and a pause. It's not the end of a phrase. So we're not gonna worry too much about that, but we will start marking the chords. So beginning of this idea starts on a C, E, G, C. It's a 5 chord, right? And it's in first inversion. 5 likes to go to 1. I mean, if you want to, you can call that an authentic cadence. I don't know if it's long enough to be a cadence, right? And then 5 again, you'd be like, wait, what about all those funky notes up there? Well, C, C, and C, and then E. There's my root and my third. This here is a suspension over and an ornamentation on the suspension. They're non-chord tones. I'm gonna play this for you and you'll just hear when it comes to rest. So I'm gonna start right here, right? I've got this, right? And I come to here. And now when I go to this, it's the F that holds over and is dissonant, meaning kinetic, or not ugly, but not at rest. Only when it sits on the E, right? And again, don't have to have all the notes there, just have to have enough, right? And this goes to another 1 chord right there, like that. And you can say it's an authentic cadence if you want, but I don't know. All right. If you haven't listened to this on the recording that's on the assignment, you should play it or find it, but you know, it's like, it's got a melodic bass and the other stuff is not moving around. So F, F, A, C, it's a 1 chord that's a non-chord tone. Here's the same chord, it's just a different part of it's in the bass now. So I'm gonna call this a 1, 6. I know that it comes back down to the root, but I keep hearing these as beats. I'm not gonna redo my figured bass there. Here I go C, C, E, G, that's a 5 chord. This D is traveling between, it's not part of the chord, and it does the same thing. 5, 6, right there, like that, it's nice. And then it looks like it's gonna do something very similar again here, kinda, right? This is exactly the same, right? It's nice to be able to borrow information, right? And here's a C chord. It's got them all up here doubled, but instead of down below, but it's still a C chord, which is 5. And here's an interesting problem. This B flat right here, like you kind of go C and B flat and you think, oh, is it a 5/7 chord, C, E, G, B flat? But if you look, these have moved up to the F notes, F, A, C. I think this is my non-chord tone right there, right? And this would be a 1, and then this will be the note that we use for when it resolves down for the inversion, okay? Here is my G, B flat, D, G. This is a 2 chord, right? It's minor. And then here I have a D and an F and an A. That seems like a 6, right? If you want to, you can say C, E, A, which is an AC, which is a 3 in first inversion. And I actually think that's for real, given that he's done that here as well, right? Seems to like that sound, staying consistent with itself. And then B flat, D, D, and a G is a 2, 6, which is gonna go to a 5, I think, right here. C, 2 C's, an E, and a G holding over, which is 5. See, as we get to our cadence points, he likes to use these gambits, right? 2, 5, 1, okay? Again, this is a little weird to have the 3 chords stuck in there, but it's the sound that he wants. And it's sort of a passing chord anyways, right? 6, 2, 5, stick that in the middle, right? Similar to the 6, 2, 5 up there. And then a 1 right here. And I'm gonna point out again, there's no third right here. No third. Now, some books will go into more nuance and say that as you approach a cadence point you can do with less notes, and some cadences at the end of pieces will just be unisons on the tonic note. It sounds great. I think it sounds really good. I'm going to go from right there. I've got right, and then here, and then we get our. Oops, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Hold on, there, and then and without the third there, it's kind of open and strident. It's kind of nice. I like that. Okay. We're going to end with a 1 chord right there. Right. Okay. Let's just plow ahead. D, D. This kind of thing where it starts on C, right? F, D, F, A. 6, right? If you want to, you can call that an arpeggiation, put the 6th there, but I don't, for myself, care that much. This is the A, C, E, right? A, C, E. It's my 3 chord again. Yeah, I guess Bach really liked that sound. That means that's not really a thing. You could call it a 7th, but I don't think so. I think it's just a passing note. B flat, D, F, D. This is B flat, D, F chord. It's going to be 4, right? And then here, these are just voice exchanging. This goes to the D goes to the B flat. If you want to, you can put the 6th there. I'm not sure I'd worry about it because we're hearing this as sort of beat qualities. F, F, C. The A comes afterwards. This is my 1 chord, like that right there. And then here I've got a, it depends on how you want to look at this. This is a G and a B flat and an F and a B flat, which you might go, is it a G minor 7 chord? I mean, and its own, it's not bad. But I think it's a non-chord tone that's held over from here and then resolves down, which will give us an E, G, B flat, which is our 7 chord, right? Which we've seen in other places, right? This is clearly a suspension right there, right? So E, G, B flat. This is my 7 chord. In truth, you could say it's both, but I don't know. It seems like it's a non-chord tone gambit that I'm familiar with. 7 is a substitute for 1, right? And this is going to an FAC, but no F yet, right? So it's ACE. You know, it suggests that it's going to be a 1 chord and the F comes afterwards. We'll just mark it as it is right now. It's a 3 chord right there. It's a pseudo substitute for a 1. If you're a jazz musician, you know that 3 can substitute for 1 sometimes in that music. And then we have a D, F, A. This is a 6 chord right here, right? D, F, A, right? And here's that place again where we have this thing here, the B natural. G, B, D, F. That's a G7 chord. It's actually in first inversion, so it's like that with figured bass. And that is the 5 chord. Dominants are 5 chords. G is the 5 of C. C's coming up right here. So we're going to mark this as a 5. This is the 5, 6, 5 of that 5. Don't worry if that's above your pay grade right now. It's fine. And then C, E, G. This is a non-chord tone. Bobbles in there. It's a very elegant little ending. We'll go from, I don't know, like from here, I guess. So we have this. It's and here's my, thing. Hear that pulling us into the 5. It's really great, right? And then end. It's really nice. Okay. There'll be another video that comes out later, where we go back and revisit all these non-chord tones and give them names, and we also look at the cadences and give them names as well. But that's good to get you started again. Hopefully that's useful. We're going to hit, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these, maybe 6 or 7 of these during the term, so you get very good at sort of looking at these and being familiar with interpreting chord tones and non-chord tones, so you get better. They'll be in a variety of different keys though. So, all right.